They say the most dangerous men in New York aren't the ones screaming threats. They're the ones who whisper them. Dante Moretti was the kind of man who could burn a city down without striking a match. He had everything money power and the fear of 5 boroughs. But he lacked the one thing that money couldn't buy someone who understood his heart. It took a spilled glass of Chianti, a terrified waitress, and a few words spoken in an ancient Sicilian dialect to change the underworld forever. This isn't just a romance. This is how the King of New York fell. The rain in Tribeca wasn't just rain. It was a freezing grey sheet that tried to drown the city. Inside Veluto, one of the most exclusive Italian restaurants on Greenwich Street, the atmosphere was warm golden and thick with tension. Sophia Rossi adjusted her apron, her hands trembling slightly. She had been working double shifts for 3 weeks straight. Her father's gambling debts to the frantic loan sharks in Queens were racking up interest faster than she could pour wine, and the rent on her tiny studio in the Bronx was overdue. She was 24, exhausted and invisible. Table 9. The floor manager, pretentious little man named Armand, hissed in her ear. "Do not screw this up, Sophia. If they ask for water, you pour it before the glass is half empty. If they drop a fork, you catch it before it hits the floor." Sophia looked at table 9. It was the corner booth, the one with the best view of the door, but shielded from the street windows. 3 men sat there. 2 were massive, wearing suits that cost more than Sophia's entire life earnings, Brioni silk blends tailored to hide the shoulder holsters. But the man in the middle was different. He was younger, perhaps early 30s, with dark hair swept back and eyes that looked like shattered obsidian. He wasn't eating. He was watching the room. This was Dante Moretti. Even Sophia, who kept her head down, knew the name. The NYPD Organized Crime Bureau had a file on him the size of a phone book, but nothing ever stuck. He was the capo of the Moretti crime family, the ghost of New York. Next to him sat an elderly woman with silver hair pulled into a severe bun. She was draped in a black fur coat, despite the warmth of the restaurant. She looked miserable. Sophia approached, clutching the heavy leather-bound menus. "Buonasera. Welcome to Veluto." The 2 bodyguards didn't look at her. Dante didn't look at her. But the old woman looked up with eyes that judged Sophia's very soul. "Water," the old woman snapped in heavily accented English. "And tell the chef if he puts cream in the carbonara like the last place, I will burn this building down myself." Dante sighed, a sound of pure exhaustion. "Mama, please. Be nice." "I am nice," she argued, slamming her hand on the table. "I am hungry, Dante. But this country, they cook like barbarians. They give me noodles and ketchup and call it marinara." Sophia felt a sudden strange spike of empathy. She knew that look. That was the look of a woman who missed home. Sophia poured the sparkling water with steady hands, despite her fear. "We make our carbonara the Roman way." "Signora," Sophia said softly. "Guanciale pecorino. Romano eggs and black pepper. No cream. Never cream." The old woman narrowed her eyes. She leaned forward, sniffing the air around Sophia. "You smell like garlic and rain. You are Italian." "My father is from Palermo, Signora," Sophia replied. The woman scoffed. "Palermo, city of thieves." Dante rubbed his temples. "Mama, leave the girl alone. Just order." The woman threw the menu down. "I want nothing. My stomach hurts. I want to go home, Dante. Take me back to the estate." The tension at the table spiked. The bodyguards shifted. Dante looked like he was about to snap. He was the most powerful man in the city, yet he was helpless against this 80-year-old woman. Sophia took a breath. She shouldn't do this. Armand would fire her for speaking out of turn. but she saw the pain in the old woman's eyes, the loneliness. Sophia leaned in slightly and dropped her voice, switching from English to the specific thick dialect of Old Sicily, a language not taught in schools, but learned in kitchens and grandmothers' living rooms. "Signora, listen to me," Sophia said in the dialect. "The chef here is from Milan. He is arrogant. But if you let me, I will go to the kitchen myself. I will make you pastina in brodo, just like we make for the sick children in the winter. Hot broth, tiny stars, a little parmesan rind to soak. It will warm your bones." The table went silent. The bodyguards froze. Dante Moretti stopped rubbing his temples. He slowly turned his head, his dark eyes locking onto Sophia for the first time. It was an intense, predatory gaze that made her knees weak. The old woman's mouth dropped open. The hardness in her face shattered, replaced by shock and then tears. "You know the dialect," the old woman whispered back in Italian. "You know pastina." "My nonna taught me before she passed," Sophia smiled sadly. "It heals the heart," she used to say. The old woman reached out and grabbed Sophia's hand. Her grip was iron. "Dante," she commanded, her voice trembling. "Did you hear her? She speaks the tongue of the village." Dante was still staring at Sophia. He wasn't looking at her uniform or her messy hair. He was looking at her mouth, analyzing the words that had just tamed the beast that was his mother. "I heard Mama," Dante said, his voice, a low baritone that vibrated in Sophia's chest. He looked at Sophia. "What is your name?" "Sophia, sir. Sophia Rossi." Dante leaned back, a small, dangerous smile playing on his lips. "Sophia Rossi. You just did something no one in my organization has been able to do in 10 years. You made my mother smile." I'll go tell the chef about the broth." Sophia stammered, pulling her hand away and rushing toward the kitchen. As she pushed through the swinging doors, her heart hammering against her ribs, she didn't see Dante Moretti signal his head of security. "Enzo," Dante said quietly, never taking his eyes off the kitchen door. "Find out everything about her, where she lives, who she owes, and what she fears. By morning, I want to know her better than she knows herself." The shift ended at 2:00 a.m. The rain had turned into a sleet that bit at Sophia's skin. She stepped out of the back alley entrance of Veluto, clutching her thin coat tight. She had made $150 in tips, enough to keep the lights on for another week, but not enough for her father's debt. She started walking toward the subway station on Canal Street. The streets were empty, save for the occasional taxi splashing through puddles. Suddenly, a black Cadillac Escalade rolled slowly alongside her. The window tinted so dark it looked like a mirror. Sophia's heart stopped. She walked faster. The car matched her pace. "Please not the sharks," she prayed. "Not tonight." The rear window rolled down. It wasn't a thug with a baseball bat. It was Dante Moretti. He was still wearing his suit, the collar of his white shirt unbuttoned, now his tie loose. "Get in, Sophia," he said. It wasn't a question. I can't," she stammered, backing away. "My father is waiting up for me." "Your father is currently at the Lucky Ace Social Club in Queens, losing the money you gave him for rent," Dante said calmly. He held up a manila folder. "And you owe the Romanos $40,000. Interest is compounding daily." Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. "How do you know that—" "I told you," Dante said, his eyes catching the reflection of the streetlights. "I know everything. Now get in. It's freezing and I hate the cold." Trembling, Sophia opened the door and climbed into the warmth of the leather interior. The car smelled of expensive cologne leather and gun oil. The car sped off, heading not toward the subway, but toward the Brooklyn Bridge. "Where are you taking me?" Sophia whispered. Dante poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter built into the console. He handed her one. "Drink. It's bourbon. It helps with the nerves." He took a sip and turned to face her. In the close confines of the car, his presence was overwhelming. He was terrifyingly handsome, but there was a violence in him that simmered just below the surface. "My mother Elena has refused to eat properly for 6 months. Dante began, his voice businesslike. "She doesn't trust the staff. She doesn't trust the nurses. She thinks everyone is trying to poison her. But she trusted you." "It was just soup," Sophia said. "It wasn't the soup, Sophia. It was the voice. It was the respect," Dante corrected. "She needs a companion, someone who speaks the language, someone who understands the old ways. I am offering you a job." Sophia gripped her glass. "I already have a job." "You have a servitude," Dante countered. "You wipe tables for ungrateful tourists. I am offering you a position at the Moretti estate in Long Island. You will be my mother's personal companion. You will cook for her, read to her, and ensure she is happy. And in return, Dante reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a check. He placed it on her lap. Sophia looked down. It was made out to the Romano brothers. The amount was 40 huntlahultrolos. "I bought your debt an hour ago," Dante said casually. "You don't owe them anything anymore." "You owe me." Sophia stared at him, horror and relief warring in her chest. He had just bought her freedom, but in doing so he had chained her to him. "This is the Mafia," she whispered. "If I come with you, I can never leave, can I?" Dante looked at her, and for a second the mask slipped. His eyes softened just a fraction. "Sophia, out here in the world you are prey. The banks, the landlords, the sharks, they are eating you alive. In my house, you are protected. You are under my banner. No one touches what is mine." He leaned in closer, his hand brushing a stray lock of wet hair from her cheek. His touch was electric. "And make no mistake, Sophia," he murmured, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. "From the moment you spoke Italian to my mother, you became mine." The car came to a stop at a red light. The decision hung in the air. "What about my father?" she asked. "He will be looked after. But he stays in Queens. You come to the estate alone." Sophia looked at the check, then at Dante's dark, compelling eyes. She realized with a jolt that she wasn't just afraid of him. She was drawn to him. He was offering a golden cage, but it was safer than the wolves outside. "Okay," she whispered. Dante nodded to the driver. "Home, Enzo." As the car accelerated onto the highway, heading toward the shadowy mansions of Long Island, Sophia didn't realize that she wasn't just walking into a job. She was walking into a war. Because being Dante Moretti's favorite put a target on her back, one that his arranged fiancée, the daughter of the rival Genovese family, was already preparing to aim. The real danger wasn't the debt. It was the jealousy of a woman scorned and the secrets buried in the Moretti basement. The Moretti estate in Sands Point wasn't a house. It was a fortress disguised as a palace. High stone walls topped with wrought iron spikes surrounded 10 acres of manicured lawns, fountains that looked like they belonged in Rome, and a mansion that whispered of old money and new blood. For 2 weeks, Sophia had lived in a guest suite larger than her entire apartment in the Bronx. Her life had fallen into a strange, quiet rhythm. Every morning she woke up at 6 a.m. to make espresso the way Elena liked it, strong dark with a twist of lemon peel. They would sit in the sunroom overlooking the sound and speak in the Sicilian dialect. Elena Moretti was no longer the angry woman from the restaurant. She was lonely, sharp-witted, and surprisingly funny. She told Sophia stories about the old country, about olive groves, and first loves conveniently leaving out the parts about how her husband had risen to power through violence. But Sophia rarely saw Dante. He was a ghost in his own house. She would hear the heavy front door slam late at night, or see the headlights of his convoy sweeping across her bedroom ceiling at 3:00 a.m. He left before she woke up. It felt like he was avoiding her, or perhaps keeping her hidden. That changed on a Sunday. Sophia was in the kitchen rolling out fresh pasta dough. The estate's head chef, a stiff Frenchman named Pierre, had finally warmed up to her after she showed him how to properly emulsify a pesto without breaking the oil. The kitchen was warm, filled with the smell of roasting garlic and rosemary. "Sophia!" A deep voice rumbled from the doorway. Sophia spun around, flour dusting her cheek. Dante was standing there. He wasn't in a suit today. He wore dark jeans and a black cashmere sweater that hugged his broad shoulders. He looked less like a kingpin and more like a man who needed sleep. "Mr. Moretti," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "I didn't know you were home." "It's Sunday," he said, stepping into the kitchen. The kitchen staff immediately put their heads down, working faster, terrified of him. But Dante only had eyes for Sophia. He reached out his thumb, brushing the smudge of flour from her cheek. The contact sent a jolt of electricity straight to her toes. "My mother tells me she's gained 3 pounds. Dante said, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "She says it's your fault for making arancini." "She needs the weight," Sophia replied, her voice shaky. "She was frail." "She looks happy," Dante murmured. "You've done exactly what I paid you to do." "Is that all I am?" Sophia asked before she could stop herself. "A transaction." Dante's eyes darkened. He stepped closer, crowding her against the marble counter. The air between them grew thick, charged with unspoken questions. "You know you are more than that, Sophia. You are the only piece in this house." Before he could say more, the heavy oak doors of the hallway burst open. The sound of high heels clicking rapidly on the marble floor shattered the moment. "Dante, darling." A woman swept into the kitchen. She was stunning, tall blonde, wearing a red Valentino dress that cost more than a car. She moved with the confidence of someone who owned everything she looked at. This was Vanessa Genovese, the daughter of the Genovese crime family boss, and Dante's fiancée. Vanessa stopped her eyes, scanning the room before landing on Dante, who had stepped back from Sophia. Her gaze then flicked to Sophia, taking in the apron, the flour, the messy bun, and dismissed her instantly as help. "There you are," Vanessa purred, wrapping her arms around Dante's neck and kissing him on the cheek. Dante didn't pull away, but he didn't lean into it either. He stood like a statue. "Daddy is waiting in the study. We need to discuss the port shipments. And then we are having lunch on the terrace." She turned to Sophia, her smile not reaching her cold blue eyes. "You, girl, bring us a bottle of the 96 Barolo and cut some prosciutto. Thinly. Don't hack at it." Sophia felt the sting of humiliation. She looked at Dante, waiting for him to say something, to say she wasn't a servant, to say she was Eleanor's companion. Dante looked at Sophia, his face an unreadable mask. "Do as she asks, Sophia." Sophia felt like she had been slapped. She nodded, keeping her eyes on the floor. "Yes, sir." She retreated to the wine cellar, her hands shaking with anger. Stupid, she scolded herself. "You thought because he touched your face he cared. To him you are just a hired hand. She is his future. You are just the help." 20 minutes later, Sophia brought the wine and the charcuterie board out to the terrace. Dante, Vanessa, and Vanessa's father, a heavy-set man with a scar running down his jaw, were seated. Elena was there too, looking miserable. Sophia poured the wine. When she reached Vanessa, the woman knocked the glass with her hand, sending red wine splashing onto the white tablecloth. "Oh, look what you did," Vanessa shrieked, though it was clearly intentional. "Clumsy little thing. Is this the best staff you can find, Dante?" "It was an accident," Elena snapped. "Leave her alone, Vanessa." "She ruined the aesthetic, Elena," Vanessa sneered. She looked at Sophia with pure venom. "Clean it up. And apologize." Sophia stood frozen. The injustice burned in her throat. She looked at Dante. He was sipping his wine, watching her over the rim of the glass. He was testing her. Sophia took a deep breath. She didn't grab a rag. Instead, she stood straighter. "I will fetch a fresh cloth." Sophia said, her voice calm but steel hard. "But I will not apologize, Miss Genovese. I poured correctly. You moved the glass." The silence on the terrace was deafening. No one spoke to a Genovese like that. Vanessa's father's jaw dropped. Vanessa's face turned a violent shade of red. "Excuse me," Vanessa hissed, standing up. "Do you know who I am? I could have you killed and buried before dessert." "Enough." Dante's voice cracked through the air like a whip. He set his glass down. He didn't look at Vanessa. He looked at Sophia. And for the first time that day, he smiled a genuine, dangerous smile of approval. "She is right, Vanessa," Dante said calmly. "I saw you hit the glass." "You're taking the maid's side," Vanessa screeched. "She is not a maid," Dante said, standing up. He walked over to Sophia and took the empty tray from her hands, handing it to a nearby waiter. Then he placed a hand on the small of Sophia's back, a possessive, undeniable claim. "Sophia is my mother's companion," Dante announced, his voice cold and final. "And in this house, she holds more respect than you do right now. If you want to eat here, you will treat her with the same courtesy you show my mother. Or you can leave." Vanessa looked at her father for support, but the older Don stayed silent, calculating. He saw what was happening. He saw the way Dante looked at the girl. Vanessa sat down, seething, humiliated. "Fine." Dante turned to Sophia, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. "Go to your room, Sophia. I'll handle them." As Sophia walked away, she could feel Vanessa's eyes burning holes into her back. She had won the battle, but she knew she had just started a war. Vanessa Genovese wouldn't forget this, and a woman like that didn't fight with words, she fought with knives. That night the estate was quiet, but Sophia couldn't sleep. The adrenaline from the terrace encounter was still coursing through her veins. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and confusingly exhilarated. Dante had defended her. He had humiliated the heiress of a rival family for her. She needed water. She slipped out of her room wearing a silk robe she had found in the closet and padded down the long, dark hallway toward the kitchen. As she passed the library, she heard voices. The door was slightly ajar. "The girl is a problem, Dante. Vanessa is furious. The Genovese alliance hangs by a thread." It was Enzo Dante's right-hand man. "Let Vanessa be furious," Dante's voice replied. He sounded tired. "I don't trust the Genoveses anyway. They are moving product through my ports without paying the tax. But keeping Sophia here, it complicates things. If the Genoveses find out who her father is, they will use it." Sophia froze. Her breath caught in her throat. She pressed herself against the wall, listening. "Her father is a gambling addict, Enzo. He's a nobody," Dante said. "He's not just a gambler, boss. You know what Frank Rossi did in '98. You know he was the driver for the heist that killed your uncle." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Sophia clapped a hand over her mouth to stifle a gasp. "My father," she thought. "A driver, a killer." "I know," Dante said, his voice dropping to a chilling low. "That's why I brought her here." Sophia's heart shattered. I thought you brought her here for your mother, Enzo said, confused. My mother was the entry point, Dante admitted. But Frank Rossi has the ledger, the missing book from the '98 heist. It contains the names of every corrupt judge and cop on our payroll. He stole it to ensure he didn't get whacked. He's been hiding it for 20 years. There was the sound of glass clinking. I bought his debt to get leverage, Dante continued. I have his daughter. Now Frank has to come out of hiding. He has to bring me the book to save her. Sophia isn't just a companion, Enzo. She's the bait. Sophia felt like she was going to vomit. The kindness, the job, the protection, the way he defended her against Vanessa. It was all a lie. It was a strategy. She was nothing more than a pawn in a game of chess she didn't know she was playing. She backed away slowly, tears streaming down her face. She needed to leave. She needed to run. She turned and sprinted down the hall back to her room. She threw her clothes into a bag, her hands shaking violently. She had to get out before Frank came. She had to warn him. She grabbed her phone and dialed her father. It went to voicemail. "Papa, listen to me," she sobbed into the phone. "Don't come to the estate. It's a trap. Dante Moretti knows about the heist. He knows about the book. Run, Papa. Just run." She zipped the bag and opened her bedroom door, only to find 2 massive bodyguards blocking the exit. "Going somewhere, Miss Rossi?" one of them asked. I need to go to the pharmacy." She lied, her voice trembling. "Mr. Moretti gave strict orders," the guard said, crossing his arms. "No one leaves the estate tonight, especially not you." "Let me through," she screamed, trying to push past them. "Sophia." The voice came from behind the guards. They parted, and Dante stepped through. He looked at her bag, then at her tear-stained face. He didn't look angry. He looked regretful. "You were listening," he stated. "You used me." Sophia screamed, throwing her bag at his chest. He caught it effortlessly, not flinching. "You lied to me. You made me believe you cared, that I was safe here." "You are safe here," Dante said, stepping closer. "I'm a hostage," she spat back. "I'm bait for a father I barely know. You're a monster, Dante." Dante grabbed her arms, pulling her close. His grip was firm, but not painful. "Listen to me. Yes, I brought you here to get the ledger. That was the plan. But that was before." "Before what?" she cried, struggling against him. "Before you sang to my mother," Dante said, intensely, staring into her eyes. "Before you stood up to Vanessa. Before I realized that I wake up every morning looking forward to seeing you." "Don't lie to me anymore," she whispered, her fight draining away. "I am not lying," Dante said. "The plan has changed. I don't care about the ledger anymore. I care about you." "Then let me go," Sophia challenged him. Dante shook his head slowly. "I can't." "Why?" "Because," Dante said, his face grim. "Enzo just got a call. Your father didn't run Sophia. He tried to sell the ledger to the Genoveses an hour ago to pay off a new debt. Vanessa's father has him. And now they are calling me." Sophia went cold. "They have your father," Dante said, "and they said if I don't deliver you to them by midnight tomorrow, they will send him back to me in pieces." Dante released her arms, looking at her with a mix of fury and desperation. "So you see, Sophia, you can't leave. Because now we are the only thing standing between your father and a shallow grave. The war has started, and you are right in the middle of it." The drive to the Red Hook terminal was silent, a silence so heavy it felt like it could crush the bulletproof windows of the SUV. The convoy consisted of 3 black SUVs. Sophia sat in the middle one next to Dante. She was dressed in black pants and a thick coat Dante had given her. Under the coat against her ribs was a cold, hard lump of steel, a snub nose .38 special. "Do not take it out unless I tell you," Dante had instructed her before they left the house. "And if you take it out, you aim for the chest. The head moves too much." Now, looking at the rain-slicked pavement of the industrial shipyard, Sophia felt a nausea she couldn't suppress. "He's my father, Dante," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the engine. "Do you really think they will kill him?" Dante didn't look at her. He was checking the clip of his own weapon. Sal Genovese is an animal. He doesn't make threats he doesn't intend to keep. But remember, Sophia Frank isn't just a victim here. He tried to sell you out. He was desperate, Sophia argued, though her heart wasn't in it. "Desperation is a reason, not an excuse," Dante replied coldly. The cars rolled to a stop inside a massive, hollowed-out warehouse. The smell of rust seawater and diesel hung in the air. At the far end, under the buzz of flickering halogen lights, stood the Genovese crew. There were 10 of them, heavily armed. In the center stood Vanessa, wearing a white trench coat that looked ghostly in the dim light. Beside her was her father, Sal Genovese, and on his knees, bound with zip ties, was Frank Rossi. He looked terrible. His face was swollen, one eye shut, his shirt torn. "Papa!" Sophia cried out, instinctively reaching for the door handle. Dante's hand clamped onto her wrist. "Wait!" he commanded. "Stay behind me. Enzo, stick to her like a shadow." They stepped out of the vehicle. The sound of 20 car doors closing echoed like gunshots. Dante walked forward, his posture relaxed, his hands visible. Sophia walked a step behind him, shielded by his broad back. "Dante!" Sal Genovese boomed, his voice echoing off the corrugated metal walls. "You brought the girl. Good. I see you still have some honor left." "I brought her," Dante called back, his voice steady. "Where is the ledger?" "We don't have the ledger." Vanessa stepped forward, her heels clicking on the concrete. She looked at Sophia with a smug, predatory grin. "Frank here says he hid it. He says he won't tell us where it is unless we let him go. But we figure, if we start cutting pieces off his daughter, his memory might improve." Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. They weren't trading her for him. They were going to torture her in front of him. "That wasn't the deal, Sal," Dante said, his muscle tightening. "Deals change." Sal shrugged. "Hand her over. We give you the old man. You walk away. No war. Just business." Frank looked up then. He saw Sophia. His eyes weren't filled with apology or love. They were filled with frantic, selfish terror. "Sophia," Frank screamed, spitting blood. "Go to them, just go to them. Tell them I'll give them the book. Don't let them hurt me anymore." Sophia froze. The words hit her harder than a bullet. "Go to them." Her father wanted her to walk into a torture chamber, just to stop his own pain. "You hear him?" Vanessa laughed, a cruel, high-pitched sound. "Even your daddy doesn't want you. Come here, little waitress." Dante went still. A terrifying stillness. He looked at Frank, then at Sophia's devastated face. "No," Dante said quietly. "What did you say?" Sal asked, his hand drifting toward his belt. "I said no," Dante repeated louder this time. "The girl stays with me. The ledger stays lost. And if you touch a hair on her head, Sal, I will burn everything you own." "She's my daughter," Frank shrieked from his knees. "I own her. Give her to them." "Dante, you owe me. I saved your uncle. You drove a getaway car." "Frank," Dante spat, his voice filled with disgust. "You didn't save anyone, and you just sold your daughter to save your fingers. You're not a father. You're a rat." Dante turned to Sophia. "Get back in the car." "But go!" Dante roared. Sal Genovese raised his hand. "Kill them all!" The warehouse erupted. The sound was deafening. Muzzle flashes lit up the dark space like a strobe light. Dante shoved Sophia toward the SUV, spinning around to fire 2 shots into the chest of a Genovese soldier who was raising a shotgun. "Enzo, get her out!" Dante screamed, ducking behind a concrete pillar as bullets chipped away the stone inches from his face. Sophia scrambled into the back seat, Enzo diving in after her. "Go, go, go!" Enzo yelled at the driver. "We can't leave Dante!" Sophia screamed, grabbing Enzo's arm. Through the rear window she saw Dante moving with lethal precision. He wasn't retreating. He was advancing. He moved between cover firing, taking down 2 more men. He was drawing their fire away from the cars. "He knows what he's doing!" Enzo shouted, pushing her head down as the rear window shattered, showering them in glass. The driver slammed on the gas, the tires screeching as the SUV peeled out of the warehouse. Sophia looked back one last time. She saw Frank Rossi. In the chaos, no one was watching him. He had scrambled to his feet. But instead of running toward Dante toward safety, he was running toward Sal Genovese, his hands up, begging. "I can get it. I can get the book," she saw her father mouthing. Then she saw Vanessa raise a pistol. She didn't hesitate. She shot Frank Rossi in the back. Sophia screamed a raw, tearing sound. "Drive!" Enzo yelled. The SUV burst out of the warehouse into the rainy night. Sophia slumped back against the seat. The image of her father falling to the concrete burned into her retinas. He had died a traitor. And Dante? Dante was still back there alone, in the dark, fighting an army to buy her time. "Turn around," Sophia said, her voice trembling but hard. "We have orders, Miss Rossi," the driver said. Sophia pulled the .38 Special from her coat and pressed the cold barrel against the driver's neck. Her hand was shaking, but her eyes were dry. "I said turn the damn car around," she hissed. "We don't leave family behind, and he is the only family I have left." The driver didn't turn around. Instead, Enzo gently pushed the gun barrel away from the driver's neck. "Look," Enzo pointed out the side window. A second SUV was tearing up the asphalt behind them, drifting around the corner of the warehouse exit. It was Dante's car. "He's out." Enzo breathed a sigh of relief. He made it. They sped back to Long Island, not slowing down for red lights or stop signs. The ride was a blur of adrenaline and grief. When they finally roared through the iron gates of the Moretti estate, the atmosphere had changed. The lights were off. Armed men, Dante's men, were patrolling the perimeter with assault rifles. The cars screeched to a halt in the courtyard. Dante stepped out of the second vehicle. He was limping slightly, and there was a dark stain spreading on the left shoulder of his coat. "Dante!" Sophia scrambled out of her car and ran to him. He looked up his face, pale sweat beading on his forehead. "I told you to go home," he rasped, but he didn't push her away when she grabbed him. "You're shot," she said, looking at the blood. "Grazed," he lied. "Get inside. Sal will be coming. He knows he can't let us live now, not after tonight." They moved into the main hall. It was a flurry of activity. Men were boarding up windows, carrying crates of ammunition. The golden cage had become a bunker. Sophia dragged Dante into the library, pushing him onto the leather sofa. "I need a first aid kit," she yelled at a passing guard. "And whiskey." She cut his shirt open. The bullet had torn a groove through his deltoid. It was deep and ugly, but it hadn't hit the bone or the artery. "This is going to hurt," she said, pouring whiskey over the wound. Dante hissed through his teeth, gripping the arm of the sofa, until the leather creaked. "You have a steady hand, Sophia," he gritted out. "My father." Sophia started, her voice breaking as she began to clean the wound. "I saw him. I saw what he did." "I'm sorry," Dante said softly. He reached up with his good hand and cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. "I wanted to bring him back for you, even if he was a rat. He chose them, Sophia whispered, tears finally spilling over. He chose them over me. You were the only one who stood in front of the bullets. I will always stand in front of them for you. Dante swore. The intensity in his eyes was consuming. I told you, Sophia. You are mine. I protect what is mine. He pulled her down. This time there was no hesitation. He kissed her a desperate, searing kiss that tasted of bourbon and blood. It was a kiss of survival. Sophia melted into him, forgetting the war outside, forgetting her father's betrayal. In the center of the storm, Dante was her anchor. Crash! The sound of glass shattering in the foyer broke them apart. Automatic gunfire erupted downstairs. "They're here!" Dante snarled, pulling his gun from his waistband. They breached the gate. He stood up, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Enzo status!" Enzo burst into the library, his face bloody. They came through the back. The seawall. They have boats. It's a full assault, Dante. There's too many of them. "Get my mother," Dante commanded. "Get her to the panic room in the basement. Sophia, go with him." "No," Sophia said, grabbing a spare pistol from the table. "I'm not going to a hole in the ground to wait to die." "Sophia, I know the house," she said fast. "I know the service passages behind the kitchen. If they are coming from the sea wall, they will try to flank us through the conservatory. We can cut them off." Dante looked at her. He saw the fire in her eyes. She wasn't the waitress anymore. She was the queen of the underworld, earning her crown. "Fine," Dante said. "Stick to me. Shoot anything that isn't us." They moved into the hallway. The mansion was a war zone. Expensive vases exploded into dust as bullets strafed the walls. Smoke from smoke grenades filled the air, making it hard to breathe. They fought their way toward the kitchen. Sophia fired blindly twice, the recoil jarring her arm, but she kept moving. "Clear!" Dante shouted, kicking open the door to the kitchen. Pierre the chef was hiding behind the industrial stove, clutching a meat cleaver. "Get to the basement, Pierre!" Sophia yelled. Suddenly the lights went out. The entire estate went pitch black. "They cut the power," Dante whispered in the darkness. "Stay low." A voice echoed from the main hallway. It was amplified by a megaphone. "Dante Moretti." It was Sal Genovese. "Come out, boy. Give us the girl and we leave your mother alive. You have 5 minutes before we burn this place to the ground." Dante gripped Sophia's hand in the dark. "He's bluffing. He wants the ledger. He thinks you know where it is." "I don't know where it is," Sophia hissed. "Think, Sophia." Dante urged her, pulling her behind the marble island. "Your father said he hid it. Somewhere safe. Somewhere he thought no one would look." Did he ever mention a place? A specific date? Sophia squeezed her eyes shut, trying to think through the panic. He always talked about the old days, about the Veluto restaurant. He said he used to work there before the gambling took over. Veluto? Dante paused. "My restaurant." "Yes," he said the best place to hide something is in the walls of the enemy. Dante's eyes widened in the dark. "The renovation. We redid the wine cellar in '98. Frank was on the construction crew. That's how he met my uncle." "It's in the restaurant," Sophia realized. "It's been under your nose the whole time." "If we know," Dante said grimly, "we have leverage. But first we have to survive the next 5 minutes." "Dante," Enzo's voice came over the radio earpiece. "Bad news. We have a breach in the West Wing. And it's not just the Genoveses." "Who is it?" "It's the police, Dante. A SWAT team just rammed the front gate. Someone tipped them off about the raid. It's a 3-way crossfire." Dante cursed. The police wouldn't just arrest the Genoveses. They would arrest everyone. And if they found the illegal weapons cache in Dante's study, he was looking at life in prison. "We have to leave," Dante said. "Now." How? Sophia asked. We are surrounded. Not everywhere, Dante said, looking at the floor. There is a tunnel, an old prohibition tunnel that leads from the basement to the boathouse. It hasn't been used in 50 years. It might be flooded. We have to try, Sophia said. Enzo, get Mama to the boathouse tunnel, Dante ordered into the radio. We are meeting you there. They made a run for the basement door. Bullets chewed up the floorboards at their heels. As they reached the heavy iron door of the cellar, a figure stepped out of the shadows blocking their path. It was Vanessa Genovese. She was holding a suppressed pistol, and she was smiling. Going somewhere, lovers, she purred. She raised the gun, aiming straight at Sophia's heart. Say goodbye, waitress. Bang! The gunshot rang out in the confined stone hallway, deafening and final. Sophia flinched, squeezing her eyes shut, waiting for the burning pain of a bullet. But it never came. She opened her eyes. Vanessa Genovese stood frozen for a second, a look of utter confusion on her face. Then the pistol slipped from her manicured fingers, clattering onto the concrete. Vanessa looked down at the blooming red stain on her white trench coat, right above her heart. She crumpled to the floor, lifeless. Behind her, standing in the doorway of the panic room, was Elena Moretti. The frail old woman was holding a smoking revolver with both hands. Her eyes were hard, the steel of the old country shining through. Mama! Dante breathed, shock cutting through his pain. Elena lowered the gun, her hands finally starting to tremble. She looked at Sophia. I told you, Dante. She speaks the dialect. She made me soup. She is family. Elena stepped over Vanessa's body without a second glance. And no one touches family. We have to go, Enzo urged, appearing behind Elena. The SWAT team is breaching the library. Dante grabbed Sophia's hand. The tunnel! Move! They descended into the damp, mouldy darkness of the prohibition tunnel. It was narrow, smelling of rot and seawater. The water rose to their waists, freezing and black, but they waded through Dante, gritting his teeth against the pain of his shoulder wound. Above them, the muffled sounds of flash-bang grenades and shouting policemen faded away. They emerged 20 minutes later in the boathouse, shivering and soaked. A waiting speedboat, piloted by one of Enzo's trusted men, idled quietly. As the boat roared away into the dark waters of the Long Island Sound, Sophia looked back. The Moretti estate was ablaze, with lights, police cruisers, flashing blue and red against the night sky. She saw Sal Genovese being led out in handcuffs, his empire crumbling under the weight of a federal raid he had foolishly triggered. But Dante wasn't looking at his house. He was looking at Sophia. He pulled her close, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. It's gone, Sophia whispered. You're home. It was just a house, Dante said, kissing her wet hair. We will build another. 3 days later, the city was quiet, recovering from the media storm of the Battle of Sands Point. The news reported that Sal Genovese was in federal custody, facing life without parole. Dante Moretti was officially a fugitive, but to the underworld, he was a ghost. But ghosts have unfinished business. It was 3:00 a.m. inside Veluto. The restaurant was dark, the chairs stacked on the tables. Sophia unlocked the back door, her heart racing. It felt like a lifetime ago that she had been wiping these tables, terrified of spilling water. Dante and Enzo followed her in. Dante was pale, his arm in a sling, but his eyes were sharp. Are you sure, Sophia? Dante asked. My father said the '98 renovation, Sophia said, walking toward the wine cellar. She stopped at a section of the brick wall that looked slightly discolored. The mortar was a different shade. He said he mixed the mortar himself. Enzo handed Dante a sledgehammer. Despite his injury, Dante took it with his good hand. He swung. Crack! Dust flew. He swung again. And again. The brick gave way, revealing a hollow space between the old foundation and the new cellar wall. Dante reached into the darkness and pulled out a package wrapped in heavy oil-stained plastic. He sliced it open with a pocket knife. Inside was a thick, leather-bound ledger. Dante opened it. He scanned the pages, his expression shifting from tension to triumph. "Is it there?" Sophia asked. "Everything," Dante whispered. "Judges, senators, police captains, the names of the men who took bribes to look the other way when my uncle was killed. The names of the people who run this city." He looked at Sophia. "This book is worth more than the estate. It's immunity. As long as we have this, the FBI won't touch us. They can't." He handed the book to Sophia. "Why are you giving it to me?" she asked. "Because your father died for it," Dante said seriously. "And because I trust you with my life. You are the keeper of the keys now, Sophia." Sophia looked at the book. It was the reason her father was dead. It was blood money. But it was also their future. It was their shield. She closed the book and looked at Dante. "Then let's make sure no one ever finds it." 6 months later, the reopening of Veluto was the social event of the season. The paparazzi were lined up outside, flashbulbs popping as New York's elite streamed through the doors. Inside, the restaurant was glowing. The music was soft jazz. The wine was vintage, and the atmosphere was electric. At table 9, the corner booth, sat the King and Queen of New York. Dante Moretti looked better than ever, his suit impeccable, his scars hidden. Beside him sat Sophia. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She was wearing a silk gown, the color of midnight diamonds, dripping from her ears. She looked radiant, powerful, and dangerous. Across from them sat the chief of police and a prominent senator. They looked nervous. "Mr. Moretti," the senator stammered, "we really appreciate the invitation. We were hoping to discuss the rumors of a certain book resurfacing." Dante didn't answer. He simply looked at Sophia. Sophia took a sip of her wine, a 1996 Barolo. She smiled, but it wasn't the polite smile of a waitress. It was the smile of a woman who held the strings. "Gentlemen," Sophia said, her voice smooth as velvet, "the food is getting cold, and my husband and I hate to talk business while we eat. But rest assured, as long as our business runs smoothly, your secrets remain safe." The senator gulped and nodded. "Of course, Mrs. Moretti, of course." Elena Moretti approached the table then. She looked healthy, her cheeks flushed. She placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Is the carbonara to your liking, Senator?" Elena asked sharply. "No cream, I hope." "It's perfect, Signora," the senator said quickly. Elena smiled at Sophia. "Good. My daughter-in-law runs a tight ship." As the music swelled, Dante reached under the table and took Sophia's hand. He squeezed it tight. "You know," he whispered, leaning in close so only she could hear. "I never did pay for that soup." Sophia turned to him, her eyes shining with love and triumph. She leaned forward and kissed him right there in the middle of the restaurant, in front of the senators and the ghosts of her past. "Don't worry, boss," she whispered against his lips. "You have the rest of your life to work off the debt." From a terrified waitress, trembling in the rain, to the queen of the New York underworld, Sophia Rossi didn't just survive the Mafia, she conquered it. She proved that while bullets can win a battle, loyalty wins the war. Dante Moretti found the one thing he couldn't steal, and Sophia found a protector who would burn the world down for her. The ledger is safe, the enemies are buried, and the Morettis are stronger than ever. But in this world, peace is just the pause between gunshots. Did you love this Mafia romance saga? If you did, please smash that like button. Let's try to hit 10,000 likes for Sophia's victory. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss an upload. Tell me in the comments, should we write a sequel about their children taking over the empire? Thanks for watching.